No paper, no pen, no way to write down a single word ever for your entire life. And if you forgot the wrong thing, you could die. Not lose a grade, not miss a meeting, die. Eat the wrong plant because you forgot which one was poisonous, and there was no note to check, no book to flip through, no search bar to save you. Everything you needed to survive had to live in your head permanently with zero backup. So how did anyone remember anything? You can't recall what you had for lunch 3 days ago. Ancient humans carried knowledge about hundreds of plants, animal behavior, dangerous terrain, seasonal patterns, and entire family histories, and passed it down accurately for generations. That gap should bother you. What did they know about memory that you don't? For years, one researcher couldn't stop asking that exact question. Lynne Kelly, then a doctoral researcher, was studying Aboriginal Australian knowledge of animals when she noticed something strange. Elders could recall enormous amounts of precise detail, species, behavior, food sources, migration patterns, all without a single written record. Kelly wanted to know how that was even possible. What she found changed how she saw prehistoric humans entirely. They weren't relying on raw memory power. They were running an entire system, built from several interlocking methods, all working together. The first method was the landscape itself. Ancient humans encoded knowledge into songlines, pathways of story and song tied to real, physical locations. A specific rock meant one story, a bend in a river meant another. Walk the actual path, sing the actual song, and each landmark you passed physically triggered the next piece of knowledge in the sequence, in the correct order, every single time. Your brain does something similar right now without realizing it. You could probably describe your walk to the kitchen in your own home, step by step, without ever trying to memorize it. Ancient humans simply built entire libraries on top of that same instinct. The second method was physical. Kelly's research points to standing stones, carved objects, and message sticks used the same way. Each object wasn't decoration. It was a placeholder, a physical peg for a specific piece of information. Touch the object or walk past it in the right order, and it would trigger the memory attached to it, the same way a knot tied in string can remind you of something the moment your fingers find it. The third method was the story itself. Facts alone are forgettable. A location that sometimes has good water disappears from memory within a generation. But turn that fact into a vivid, strange, almost absurd character or event tied to that exact spot, and it becomes nearly impossible to lose. Ancient storytellers weren't just entertaining each other around the fire. They were deliberately packaging survival information inside images strange enough that a human brain refuses to let them go. And then there was the final piece, the one that explains why none of this fell apart over time. These stories weren't kept by one person. They were held communally, repeated at gatherings, spoken aloud in front of the very people who already knew them. If a detail drifted, if someone got a step wrong, the group would catch it and correct it on the spot. Your memory alone is fragile. A tribe's shared memory, checked constantly against itself, is remarkably hard to break. Here's the detail that should stop you. Some of these oral traditions describe land that existed before it flooded at the end of the last ice age. That knowledge appears to have been passed down accurately for over 7,000 years. 7,000 years with no writing, no single point of failure, corrected generation after generation by the very system that created it. Try to think of anything in your life that stayed accurate after being repeated by hand for even 7 days. So this wasn't luck. It wasn't just really good memory. It was a system, 4 methods deep, place, object, story, and community working together. And it turns out the core of that system runs on hardware that's still sitting inside your skull right now. Around 2,500 years ago, long after your ancestors had already been doing some version of this for tens of thousands of years, a Greek poet named Simonides stumbled onto the same trick by accident. A building collapsed, and he was the only one who could identify the victims, simply by remembering exactly where each person had been sitting in the room. From that, he built a formal method. Picture a familiar place. Walk through it in your mind. Attach the thing you want to remember to a specific spot along the way. It's the songline trick again, just shrunk down to fit inside a single mind instead of an entire landscape. It sounds almost too simple to work, but this is where the science gets interesting. In 2003, a researcher named Eleanor Maguire at University College London studied a group of memory champions, people who could memorize hundreds of random digits or an entire shuffled deck of cards in minutes. McGuire wanted to know if their brains were simply different, wired for genius from birth. They weren't. What she found was that these champions were almost all using some version of the same ancient trick, mentally walking through a familiar space and placing information along the way. Their brains weren't unusual, their method was. This works because of something deep in your neural architecture, the exact same architecture your ancestors were leaning on with every songline and every carved stone. In 2014, John O'Keefe and two other researchers won the Nobel Prize for discovering place cells and grid cells, specialized neurons inside the hippocampus that function like an internal map, tracking exactly where you are and where you've been. This system evolved long before language, long before writing. It evolved because for ancient humans, knowing your location, your escape routes, where the water was, where the danger was, wasn't optional information. It was the difference between making it through the week and not. So when you use a memory palace, you're not doing something clever and new. You're borrowing your oldest, most reliable neural system, one built for survival, and quietly redirecting it to hold information it was never originally meant to carry. That's the part most people never realize. Your memory isn't weak, it's misapplied. You keep trying to remember abstract things, names, numbers, facts, using systems in your brain that are honestly mediocre at holding abstraction. Meanwhile, the part of your brain built for spatial memory, the part ancient humans depended on every single day, mostly sits idle. Ask yourself something. When did you last struggle to remember someone's name, but never once struggled to remember your way home? That's not a coincidence. That's your hippocampus telling you exactly what it was built for. Ancient humans didn't have better brains than you. They simply never stopped using the one system evolution actually optimized. Writing gave you a shortcut, and shortcuts are wonderful until you realize you've let an entire ability quietly go unused. Your ancestors didn't out-remember you because they tried harder. They out-remembered you because they were still running the original software, the one built for wayfinding, for spatial recall, for turning a walk through familiar ground into a vault that could hold a lifetime of knowledge. You can still use it. The next time you need to remember something that matters, don't just repeat it in your head. Picture a place you know well. Walk through it mentally, room by room, and set the thing you need to remember down at each stop along the way, like leaving an object on a shelf. It will feel strange the first time. It worked for people who had no other choice for over 100,000 years. No paper, no pen, no way to write anything down. And somehow that was never the disadvantage you assumed it was. It just meant they had to use the one memory system you've been ignoring your entire life.